Hey everybody, welcome back to Roosters on Olentangy River Road in Columbus, Ohio, the greatest city in the known world. This is the Lettermen Lounge, and look at this, Nicole. It's starting to feel more homey in here, and that's
spruced it up a little, guys. We still have a few more things we've got to put up, but
that just means
we wanted to make it look very much like the Lettermen Lounge.
Bobby is sitting right there today because he's trying to block the fact that that's where his picture used to be.
We have an even better picture coming. Yep.
Oh boy.
Mm-hmm. He walked right in. He said, "I'm not high maintenance," and then he said, "Where'd my picture go?"
I wanted to preface that. Well, because I bring the kids over here, and it's nice that they have a picture of Dad in here. So it gives me like a little credibility to talk to them about something. So I got one of Uncle Age right up there above. We were right beside each other, so it was really easy, nice to see. And so it disappeared. So I'm like, oh gosh, that's all credibility is going to be lost now. They realize Dad's officially an old man.
All right, well, that's Bobby Carpenter. He's not an old guy to us. He's a key part of the show. That's Jay-Z, Justin Zwick, Michael Bennett. A short timer now with us. We'll have to talk about that and his upcoming travels, and Nicole Cox from Roosters. It's still a pretty quiet time. We're going to get into a lot more football as the show goes on, but right now, like Ohio State, Chris Holtmann, the Buckeyes on the basketball court have it rolling. Couldn't get it done on Sunday against Michigan, but that game, a top 5 showdown, kind of lived up to the hype, the billing. Maybe they'll play again. I know none of you guys played basketball. We're not going to be able to break it down the X's and O's, but it was a fun one, and this has been a pretty fun basketball team to watch, Nicole.
Yes, it was a super exciting game and definitely very high scoring. I was shocked, but they both played. I mean, it was the best Big Ten game of the year, I think. And Dwayne Washington had the best game of his career with 30 points, which was awesome.
Yeah.
So
I know nobody likes it to see when Michigan gets the better of that game. And even Chris Holtmann added the golden jerseys to go with the gold pants. Sign that he kind of gets it, but I know that stings you guys anytime you see that team come out on top.
Yeah, I think it's great that the Big Ten is the strongest conference in basketball right now, and seems to be pushing that for the last couple years. But yeah, you don't like to see that team up north get the better of you in any sport. I don't care if wrestling, pistols, or whatever. That's not what you want to see. But, once again, good competition is going to show up, and in basketball, it really is that any given night kind of thing where the right team has to show up. So this Ohio State Buckeye team has been really exciting. Every year, it feels like Chris Holtmann's getting him more and more on the path that he envisions for him. And so, yeah, there'll be some slip-ups, but luckily there's more than 12 games in a basketball season.
That's the difference. Like, you can't really overreact to just one game.
No, and it's great because it's a game you're looking forward to. 2 weeks ago, you didn't know if it'd even get played because Michigan was out for 3 weeks. They're one of the best teams in the country, hadn't really played a whole lot. And so you're trying to figure out how long would it take them to bounce back. They obviously took them about a half against Wisconsin, and then all of a sudden they got to turn the page and start playing really, really well. But watching that game, those are 2 of the best teams in the country. And I think Ohio State's odds actually improved to win the national championship, I think, from 11-1 to 10-1, even after that loss. And so people look at that. Michigan, they can score inside, they can score outside. They've got great size. Ohio State, were years early on at the end of Thad and early Holtmann where the thought of hitting like 87 or cresting 90 points, I mean, like how many games do we get?
Unthinkable.
I was shocked when I saw the score.
So they can score the basketball, and it was kind of clustered a little bit, when you start talking about, it was Liddell, it was Washington, CJ, coming off the bench. But a lot of times they've had a lot more variety in scoring. But the fact that they can get to that 90-point mark, you don't feel like anyone's ever going to run away from them. They have the ability to heat it up quick. So when you play again, I mean, couple possessions here or there. End of the first half, some turnovers, a couple offensive boards by Michigan. Like if you can curtail those things, I mean it's a one or two possession game, and that's what it's going to be like, with these elite teams. So I think it's proven that Ohio State's right there with just about anybody.
Yeah, and I mean you're looking at 10 of 13 from behind a 3-point line in the first half. That's nuts, right? You're not going to have that every game. So I mean, for the fact that Ohio State was able to stay right there with them, I mean they're on fire, and Ohio State did what they had to do. I mean, I didn't think watching the game that we were like exceptionally on fire from anywhere, but we were just making plays. And, it was the best basketball game I've seen this year. It was the only basketball game I've seen this year. But
it's about that time.
It was probably the first game for a lot of people, Ohio State fans, just because it was such a big Michigan game, and at the end of the year, and 3 versus 4, the first time in a long time, if ever.
It said since 1909.
So I mean, you had some,
which is crazy.
A serious kind of history behind that game, just being rated so high. So great showing. I can't wait to see the Big Ten tournament. I think they're going to run it right back, and it's going to be another good one.
Yeah, it's about that time to really start paying attention. We got Spencer Holbrook covering the team now on that full-time basis for us at Lettermen Row. And Roosters, of course, will be getting ready because the big dance is always a popular time to get Roosters.
And we didn't get to have it last year.
Yeah.
So we're very excited, very, very excited for it. And it's a busy time for us. So, come early, get your seats. But we're very much looking forward to it.
So let me ask you this about that, because it's not the classic Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday affair. There's going to be stuff sprinkled in throughout the week. I mean, Nicole, are we prepared to be able to handle week-long tournament venue?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes, we can do that. And so
Monday night and Tuesday night games, right? For the
Appetizer
that
Tuesday
what it
as
is?
well.
There'll be
blended in.
You can have some mozzarella.
Yes.
I don't know if the days line up perfectly.
One today? Look at that.
I know.
That's
The danger of eating one is you just want to keep. I just want to keep eating this basket.
Well,
it was delicious.
so we're giving the full review today because Appetizer Tuesday $2 baskets of mac and cheese, not mac and cheese. Fried
Mozzarella sticks.
Gosh, I'm struggling, Nicole.
More
No.
cheese, different shape.
next, the March 2nd is
Okay.
mac and cheese bites.
Love get Schleg's back in here for that. What did you guys think about the gold jerseys to compete with the gold pants you guys won? Nice little tweak to the rivalry, or do you wish that you had that cornered off for football alone?
I think it's healthy that the whole Ohio State ecosystem kind of gets on the same page with our hatred of that team up north, or at least with our rivalry, our respect for the rivalry of that team up north. I know it's more traditional that it's a football thing, but I think it's really cool. Traditions have to start somewhere. Just because it didn't start in 1920 doesn't mean it can't start in 2021. So I like the idea of it. It's that kind of stuff that also helps when guys come in or guys come in and you're trying to teach them the culture and the tradition of the school and of the program. It's those little things that you can point to say, hey, this is why it's important. This is how much tradition we have. These are our rivals. This is this kind of stuff. So I'm a big fan of it. I hope guys latch onto it, and Chris Holtmann is there for a long time to keep that tradition rolling.
Well, I think when he started, and I don't know a lot about it. You guys might know more, but I feel like for football, they raise that money kind of on their own, right?
Yeah.
So it's a thing where these guys are giving back. They're around the program. They want to be a part of it. So I think that's cool if you have your basketball alumni saying, hey, we want to be a part of this. We want to be into this. We're going to put some money into it and make sure these guys have, something different or something for the rivalry game. And I think that's cool to see. And that might just be a culture thing where you see guys coming back and wanting to do more things like that. So I think that's awesome for the basketball program.
Bob, you didn't look like you loved it.
No, I don't dislike it. I think it's good. It's just interesting with the basketball team. Over the course of history, Michigan's always been the football rival, and I think it has been in basketball. But, I mean, you could probably look at a 30-year stretch where people probably looked at Indiana probably almost as equal as a rival for Ohio State. Now, Indiana hasn't really been great over the last 20 years. They've had intermittent moments of success. Michigan's been a much more consistent contender. And, I do think it's fantastic now, the fact that they have Juwan Howard up there, and like all this is kind of happening at once, and they're another elite team. So anytime you can do something, with young people today to try to pique their interest. I mean, the reality is, kids have got a bunch of different things going on. There's screens all over the place and apps on your phone and this and that. Swipe left, swipe right. Give them something tangible they can see. Like, hey, you win, you get this, and it'll take a little bit of time, but I guarantee you, as those guys get rolling, that'll be a big piece. 10 years from now.
Well, hey, and if you win some jewelry, you get to post that to the gram too. So
yeah,
The gram, I love
gram bait.
I believe that's what it's referred
Tinder
to.
bait.
I'm sure I'm not on that social media service. But when you're talking about that history and the way that these programs are rolling, football and basketball, I'm going to bring it to you. This will be our main topic for the first half of the show with Nicole in here. You can have the Urban Meyer and Thad Matta. I know all this time will not line up perfectly. You can have the Urban and Thad era. You're going to get a title with Urban, a couple Final Fours with Thad. I can give you that. Or you can continue to bet on what Ryan Day...
This is like Price is Right.
Yeah. What do you
Take
want?
this showcase or wait for the next.
Or wait and see what
wait.
you can do better. So which would you rather have? Who wants to start? You can have Urban and Thad, or you can have Ryan Day and Chris Holtmann.
I'll kick it off and then just really dive way too deep into this.
Let's go. Let's go.
You always got to be careful with this kind of stuff when you're measuring a person era to era, because could we do what Ryan Day and Holtmann are doing without what Urban and Thad have done? That being said, with the groundwork set, I think Chris Holtmann and Ryan Day are going to have more prolific careers than even Thad Matta and Urban Meyer, which is crazy to say. It's hard to win a national championship in football. It's hard to get to the Final Four in basketball. And, Urban was able to get us a championship. His record at Ohio State was insane. Thad's record was great. He got us to the Final Four a couple times. I think Chris Holtmann's an incredible coach. I think he's building an incredible culture, and it's really going to be, I think, how long he decides to stay at Ohio State. And I would say the exact same about Ryan Day. It depends on how long they decide to stay. And here I dream that they stay for 20 years each, 30 years each. But I think they'll have a lot of success. They're building off of their predecessors. There's already good culture in both of those sports. I think I would be very surprised if we didn't get a couple national championships out of Ryan Day. And I think Chris Holtmann is one of the coaches in the country who gives us the best opportunity to compete for that in basketball.
So you were playing when this happened, but the argument was when Urban got hired, it wasn't if he would win a national championship, it's how many would he need to win in order to be deemed a successful tenure. And I mean that, and then you get the first one there in year 3, you get close to second year, and he gets one. It's not use the term only. I mean, Tress only had one. I mean, it's tough. They're very, very tough to win. They're very, very tough. I think it's easier to get to a Final Four in college basketball than it is to win one in football. If Thad got to 2, it's tough, man. And here's the other thing that Holtmann's going to have to deal with. And I say deal with, just it's the end of the one and done era. And how does that impact? Is it better? Yep. Maybe. Is it worse? I'm not sure. Like, how will that impact what he's able to do, how he's able to recruit and develop these teams? Not to besmirch either one of these guys. I mean,
all 4 of these guys.
They're all winners. They're all great coaches.
I've always been told that 1 in the car is better than 2 in the bar. And so I'm going to go and lean on what is in hand right now. And I'm going to take the fact that you've got a title. I know I've got 2 Final Four appearances. I'm going to take that.
Okay. 1 in the car is better than 2 in the bar.
It took me a minute.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
He said it real fast.
It was smooth, man.
Just so you didn't think about.
I'm stealing that.
It wasn't not the first time. Tough decision here. Gosh, you just forget how good it was. I mean, 06 was my senior year. We go and play Florida in the national championship, which would have been Tress's second one, in however many years. And then that same sports year, I mean, Ohio State plays Florida in the national championship. I mean, there's a lot of fun back in the day. It's just you seem to forget about those as you move forward with the new exciting things, and Urban coming and win one, and Ryan taking over, and Chris coming in. Gosh.
Well, that may be part of the flaw, Jay-Z, that when I present this question is that you said this earlier. There was a lot of crossover with Tress.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Thad. When I hear Thad, I think Tress just because I was there, when Thad came in, and that's when Conley and Greg Oden, and he had those teams kind of around my senior year.
Yeah.
So that, I thought of it more that way. But just moving forward, I mean, Ohio State is in such a great position in both sports for recruiting, and we know that's the name of the game for anything. So I think what Chris Holtmann is doing, and you get these one and dones, and maybe they're saying, man, that's a coach I want to go play for. Look what he's doing with these guys that maybe have been there for a couple of years. What if we put a couple big-time players on there like Thad had when he had Oden and Conley and those guys? But I would go forward. I think Ohio State it was always big, and it was always the best in the Big Ten, in my opinion. It's not even close nowadays. I think they're just recruiting. I think they've put in so much into not the buildings, the facilities, the weight rooms, just all that sort of thing. It's just, if you want to come win a championship or you want to come be the best in the Big Ten, there's no other school to go to. So I think moving forward, those 2 guys are going to have tons of success, and it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Since, Austin, you have unfettered access to these guys, and, I mean, you're basically like best friends. Mm-hmm. I want you to pose that question to both Ryan Day and Chris Holtmann. Ask Ryan, would you take a 7-year tenure of what Urban Meyer was able to do, and ask Holtmann, would you take whatever the first 12 years of Thad Matta, and said that's going to be what you get, finality, or do you want to see what's behind showcase number 2 and see what's over there?
Like, I mean, I
bet they'd both sign up.
You'd have a hard time saying no to it.
Yeah.
Given I know one of those coaches much better than the other, but I think that. And we'll let Nicole have her shot here in a second. But I think that
Nicole knows them all really well.
She does. That's why she'll be able to give more of that unfettered insight than I can. But I believe that Ryan Day thinks he can do better than what Urban's tenure was. Now, would you take it if you were offered it? Of course. You get that one guaranteed national title, you're set for life. 7-0
that, man.
in the game.
Look, screw that. Go cut your own path.
I know. I was going to say the same thing.
Because I think because of what
do you want to take the money or do you want to play?
You want to play.
Let's play.
I think he wants to play. Let's roll the dice and knock over signs.
Yeah,
because
we're Lettermen Row.
I think the way, and he knows like what Urban did, the work that had to go into establishing and raising the profile, the culture, and recruiting and all that. You look at these first 2 years, he'll kick what happened in the Fiesta Bowl. Obviously, we'll never stop talking about the play and how close they were to maybe winning a national title this year. I think they would have beat LSU last year, and then Alabama in the weird year. I think he knows like everything is in position to always win the Big Ten, to always win the rivalry. And if you've got a shot then every year, you're going to, maybe you don't win 2 games every single time you get to the playoff, but I think he knows he's going to get 1. And then the question is, are you going to get 2 or 3? And that's this. You bring this up.
It's hard.
It's
man.
the same thing when you're asking how many is Urban going to win. Like they're hard. Like Nick Saban's made it look far too easy. When in reality, it's not. But I think if you offer that to Holtmann, maybe he'd say, "Yeah, I'll take what Thad did," because Final Fours are also pretty tough to get to, even if it is easier than a football title. I think Holtmann would take it. I think Day would say, "No, let's give me the dice. Let's roll them."
I like it.
I agree. I feel like coaches are bred to be the best they can be. So I don't think that they would settle for just living the path of someone else. But I think Urban and Matta were phenomenal coaches. But I think they set up the program so that Holtmann and Day could come in and build off of that. So they're not starting from scratch. And so they had a really great program, and all they can do is make it better. Well, hopefully that's the goal. Only make it better. But so I think we're just really lucky with a great, just set of coaches we have coming through the programs.
I think the goals, like you're saying, the goal of a new coach, especially when you're replacing a coach who has a storied history and has a winning history, the goal should be to do better than that coach, or else because nobody wants to just fill a void for a little bit and then eventually the next hotshot coach pops up and then you get replaced. Like once again, we talk about the tradition and the culture and all that kind of stuff. These are guys who understand those aspects of Ohio State, and I think they take them very seriously. So it's not like you'd ask Ryan Day and he'd be like, "Oh yeah, Urban didn't do anything. I'm gonna come in here and win 6 national championships." He understands. He has respect for it. He understands the culture and the tradition. He wants to. I don't know. I'm putting words in his mouth, but he wants to elevate that tradition and that history, and I think they're both capable of it. I think Chris Holtmann might have a harder uphill climb, but what he's done to this day has been incredible. The team he's built, you're competing with teams that the top guys in the whole country all talk to each other. Let's go to Kentucky. Let's go to these schools. Like so, you don't really get the first pick of guys. And when you can convince just one of those guys to come to Ohio State, the belief that gives the rest of the team is something you can do some special stuff with.
So I've got an article for you guys, an idea. Yeah. So I'm also a content creator.
Well, that's why you are a contributor to Lettermen Row.
And so you may want to have to pull your guy Spencer in with this. Okay. So even though the banner has been taken down and they somehow try to scrub it from your memory, this is obviously pre you getting here. Mm-hmm. Jim O'Brien went to a Final Four. Thad Matta went to 2 Final Fours. If Chris Holtmann's able to go to a Final Four, that would be 3 consecutive coaches going to Final Fours. Okay. I don't know if you could pair that up with Jim Tressel winning a national championship, Urban winning a national championship, and Ryan Day. And both of these guys look poised that these things could potentially happen. Right. If there's any school in the country that would have had 3 football and basketball coaches in succession have that type of success.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we can sit here off the top of our head and say there's got to be no way. No. Because Alabama doesn't have any basketball national championships. We can rule them
Maybe
out.
Kentucky.
Like, Clemson doesn't.
Kentucky has no football, right?
Mm-hmm. What about Kansas?
That's a great one, buddy.
Kansas. Yeah.
I mean,
what's Mangini?
Didn't do it. Yeah, Rutgers didn't do it either.
Hey, you mess around and throw in wrestling with that too. I'm sure we've got some history.
No, that's it. I mean, that's a great point, Bob. I don't think that there's anyone close to it, and that's why the Athletic did.
George Costanza and I both make good points. Well, that's what we have in common.
You can be my latex salesman anytime, Bob. I don't think that's happened. Chives will look, but just off the top of my head,
consecutively,
the programs like North Carolina with a national title, no. Duke with a football title, no.
Florida had a good run, right? I mean, they at least had one.
Billy
they had one coach, football, basketball.
That run, we know that stopped because Spurrier was replaced by Ron Zook before Urban got there, so there's no 3 consecutive.
Ron Zook, Orville guy.
And Will Muschamp sure didn't win one after that either. So they didn't even have 3 that did it. But
that's true.
But he screamed a lot.
Again, and that's also like
fiery.
Coach Boom, like Nicole is talking about. all those previous coaches, you're trying to enhance it. Ohio State's not a program that builds something and then lets it all crumble back down.
It's like what Michael said. They respect one another and they respect the job they did. And I think all of them are legends here and have built something. And then the next coach is just supposed to help it grow.
Well, and that's one thing that Urban said to me this year. I think it was actually when we were up at Urban's Pine House, and he's like, all of the head coaches here, he's like, are friends. He's like, you want and invest in the people's success after. He goes, it was not like that anywhere else that I've been. He goes, you don't see that where the guy that you're replacing is pulling for you to have success, and you can talk to a John Cooper as well, or an Earl Bruce, and obviously coach for Bruce is a little different. He's like, but everybody's pushing in the same direction. He's like, those guys are all pushing for Ryan. They all want him to have as much success as possible too. He goes, and you do not see that at very many other places, if anywhere.
And that kind of tradition is something that will move a lot of different people. Like, I mean, I don't want to bet against Urban, but do you think if that wasn't the tradition at Ohio State from passing the mantle from coach to coach, then we would be able to have that seamless transition from Urban to Ryan? Like that, it takes quite a bit.
Look what happened at Michigan when, a famous, successful coach went aside, and it's the same thing happened at Tennessee multiple times with Phil Fulmer refusing to let go, Lloyd Carr wanting to have his influence, up north. Like, if you don't have that continuity or some help, and you still have loyal soldiers from the previous regime, you have no chance of succeeding.
It takes a massive ego check by the outgoing coach to look at this new coach and be like, I want you to have more success than me. And that's what you have to do to have that, consistent performance over the decades, which is what makes one of the things that makes Ohio State so special. But yeah, I mean, just to be able to have that seamless transition, I thought it was very incredible to see specifically what that transition from Urban to Ryan Day was. Like, because you could see he was grooming him, and you could see that everybody knew kind of where it was going. And then to have a coach like Urban Meyer, who has that many wins and that much success, who will be like, all right, I take my cap off. This is your dance now. Yep. I think that's kind of stuff that if you're looking at, where should I go to for college to either play basketball or football, you can see that the tradition at Ohio State is different.
Anything else, Jay-Z?
Yeah, I was just thinking about just how the coaches we've talked about have all had big wins. Or, John Cooper, he had the Rose Bowl against Arizona State, right? Tress had a championship. Like, they don't leave and go head coach somewhere else. They kind of just leave and they're done. And I love Columbus. Columbus loves me. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to help this coaching staff coming in, try and help them, the things I didn't know when I got to Columbus or that sort of thing. So I think that's unique in itself of just a lot of other coaches at other places. They're getting fired because they haven't been good.
Yep.
These guys have had some interesting things happen towards the end of their careers where it's just like, I was good. I'm going to stay around and try and help the program even be better than what it was when I was there. So I think that's different as well, the culture and everything that Ohio State brings.
It's also because Columbus is the world's greatest town.
Yeah, as you started off, yeah.
And because they get to go play in the Roosters Foundation golf event and play with Nicole. So if you leave town, you're out.
Yep.
You lose your spot.
Those
are the most coveted spots.
I drank out of my third place mug this weekend.
Well,
love it.
We'll sort out the tiebreaker for second another time. That's not. Don't bring
here nor there.
That's not here nor there. Nicole, anything else going on at Roosters this week that people need to know about other than the mozzarella
Just
sticks?
appetizer Tuesday for right now. Gearing up for March Madness.
All right.
Love it.
March Madness is coming. Basketball. Spring ball will be here soon enough, and we can talk about some more football. We're going to do that after we take a break and let Nicole go do her real job. We'll be right back on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters.
Roosters is one of the unique companies that we deal with. They're involved in everything we do, from our personal foundation to also the Cancer Research Fund. And that's from the Buckeye Cruise from Cancer to all the events leading up to the Buckeye Cruise.
They donate back to different organizations that are near and dear to their heart. And we're so fortunate to have been with Roosters now for a long, long time.
All the folks at Roosters are just genuinely kind folks, and they want to make a difference.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
Thank you, Roosters Foundation.
All right, welcome back into Roosters for Lettermen Live. We've got Jay-Z, Bobby Carpenter, and Michael Bennett going strong here. And guys, this struck me that I could have like three of the best people that I could ask about this.
Oh, boy.
The last week or two, we've talked about what goes on in winter conditioning and how important that is. Set aside like what you're actually doing. Mickey Marotti, Ryan Day, Urban Meyer, Schlegs, whoever else going back through time have talked about how that leadership for a team is set up in February and March and not in a game in September. Maybe there's some element to that once you get to it, but you could see like Ohio State, they're posting this stuff, they're getting through the winter workouts, and they're saying, well, here's Cade Stover, he's stepping forward and he's talking more. Here's Tommy Eichenberg, some guys that they're trying to bring that out of. So, Jay-Z, you played quarterback. Bobby, you've been the leader of a bunch of teams. Michael, we know how important your role was in 2014. How much is that where it just does come out of these workouts? What does it take? Did you guys feel like you all were, always born to lead? Do you have to develop that leadership? How did it work for you three? How did you see it develop with some of your teammates?
Gosh,
I know that we could talk.
I was thinking when you were asking the question, I started thinking to myself about what it was like in 2004 after we had just lost 12 guys to the draft. That first team meeting was just like, whoa, you're looking at a different room, right? And so Craig had played 2 years in a row. It's me and Troy now. And we're still not the old guys. We're still young guys, but we're going to be a starting quarter. One of us is going to play the next year type thing. So it's just like, I was trying to think back because it's kind of like a fine line of, you don't want to overstep. There's seniors who have been there for a long time who have been waiting for this role to be the leader of the team type thing, if that makes sense. So it's kind of, you don't want to overstep things, but as a quarterback, I want to be the leader of this team. So there's kind of like a juggling act that you kind of do. Because we had Nuge, who was a big-time player. He led a lot of the workout stuff. And I think that's some of the things that those leaders kind of do. They're just more vocal in the offseason. When the team's getting together, they're the ones talking or, just trying to do those sorts of things. So, for these young guys, they have vets that are coming back. So it's kind of like, if Olave saying something, hey, I want to be a leader too, but man, he's a lot better than I am, or just things like that. You kind of got to be careful, just because you don't want people looking like, here's this guy. Here's this guy. Just let our leaders lead. We don't need you trying to jump in here. So it is tough, and I'm thinking of those young quarterbacks because they're going to need somebody to come out and play. Somebody to be the man. So it's interesting how their battle between them goes. I know when Troy and I were there, it didn't go so great all the time. It seems to be a different culture there nowadays, which, when I've been around and seen these guys kind of going back and forth together, it's like, man, that's so strange to me because Troy and I almost fought a couple times, just stupid stuff. And it's just like, man, it's nuts, but that's just the culture and where these guys are at and what the coaches tell them when they come here. This is what we're going to do. This is how it's going to go, and you're going to be making everybody on the team better. So it's tough, but these young guys are going to have to just kind of feel it out, see how it goes. And if they have questions and they need to talk to somebody older, be like, hey, I want to get into more. All right, well, here, I'll bring you along or something along those lines. But it's definitely tough because you're looking at a different team and you're trying to be that guy, and they're looking at you saying, who's this freshman? He might be our quarterback next year, but come on, guy. At least be here for a couple months before you try and rah-rah, the rest of the team. And I digress.
No, and that's good because it's a very pointed example because you lost like entire position groups of starters off of that team, and it was tough like looking around. And so you got a lot of guys in our class coming up, either rising redshirt sophomores or rising juniors, and some of us have played a decent amount from the previous year, but you're replacing I think 7 or 8 guys, and it was a very small senior class. And then when you're replacing your quarterback on offensively, I mean that's a big piece because that's the guy who's always the most vocal, and so that's something they'll be going through this year. Justin's not going to be there, and you're going to have a battle. And it's not like you have one guy who's the clear-cut favorite. Mm-hmm. It's on a lot of guys who really haven't played and haven't been there that long, and so you go through all of this and you grind, and what happens is you have to be yourself. Guys can see people that are inauthentic.
Yeah, they'll read right through that.
You read right through it right away. I mean, players are great at smelling BS from other players and from coaches because you see so much of it. Mm-hmm. Eventually, there's no other way to see. Like it's right there. This guy's fake. Like it's not who he is. He's not like that all the time. Mm-hmm. So trying to understand that, but I mean, you have this big leadership void, and it's like who can start to fill these pieces out and who does this part, and because there's different types of leaders and they do different things, and there's guys that more game day stuff. There's guys that show up and say work really hard in practice, and I joke it's the line out of Braveheart, and I always say it to Schleigs all the time. We start talking about titles and this and that. It's like men don't follow titles, men follow courage. And it's just who's going to show up, who's going to put in the work, and then who's going to make the difficult statements sometimes when they need to be said. And calling people out can be tough because to call somebody out, you're putting yourself out there and opening yourself up to criticism. So you have to be beyond reproach as well, because no one wants to see the guy who doesn't run through the line 5 times, and then the sixth time someone else does it, and they're the one yelling at them because the coach saw. Like, it's just, and because guys see it, and it's just, and so trying to battle that, the linebacker group, very vocal group on defense. You lost 4 seniors.
Right.
It's like you even have somebody that can kind of shepherd it a little bit. So those guys are going to be trying to battle for playing time, find their own way, and then you're going to also expect them to kind of meld, the defensive line with the secondary and try to talk that out. Like, there's a lot of things that you have to have, and the way they do that is they have these, these critical inflection points where you try to simulate the best you can the pressure, and you do that through fatigue, you do that through the threat of like punishment or more physical pain, if you will, but to get guys to think clearly and to see who's going to slowly begin to crumble and other guys that are going to be there kind of holding everybody together. And so that's what Mickey Marotti is tasked with in this offseason, where you can't even really get the whole team together at this point. You're doing that in like segments. So you've got to like have segment leaders, and then those guys, I mean, they got to figure out their role when the whole team gets together. Like, well, you weren't here with me. It was me and the other 25 guys. And now who's kind of, the quote, the alpha dog. And so they've got a lot of great players on their team and great humans, which makes that a lot easier. But it's not an easy task by any stretch.
I mean, these guys both, you hit on all the great points. I would add that I think being a leader simply means that you've been recognized as having a strong spirit. You need to be one of those guys when push comes to shove, you don't flinch, you don't fold, all that kind of stuff. And the only way for them to figure that out is exactly what Bob was saying, is to put you through hell. Make it as hard as legally allowed to find out.
Maybe illegally.
Maybe illegally, just don't tell anybody. Make it as hard as possible to find out who's going to fold when it gets tough. When you're tired, are you going to fold? When you're getting yelled at, are you going to fold? When your team is losing, are you going to fold?
You were there for you were there for the Urban's first year.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, so you know what they do.
You talk about legal and illegal.
Yeah.
I know.
The stories because I would be inside working out, and just like they would come in, and like the guys weren't allowed in the locker room or anything, and I started talking to John Simon, he's a senior, and Zach, and like John would be like, and I love Zach, and Zach would get real vocal and like try to get everybody going, like talking back to coach, like, you can't break us, and John's like, they'll keep us here all day.
Yeah.
Just encourage everybody else. Yeah. Don't be challenging the coaches on how tough you can be. We're outside and it's 5:00 in the morning in February.
In the snow.
It's freezing
Bear
cold
crawls in the snow.
Still have 5 more hours that they could have worked with right there. Like, you're getting a break. 5.
So they definitely pushed those boundaries. I don't know if they still do that, but they definitely push those boundaries of trying to put us through stuff to find out who's going to rise to the top. And when you have a lot of turnover, it's even more important to put your team through those really difficult situations so you can find out, okay, we've got a position group that lost 4 seniors. Which one of you young guys is going to step up? And if you have the whole room that doesn't step up, I will bet you $1 billion that those coaches are going to sit them down and say, you don't get to be bums around here. Someone needs to come up. Someone needs to step up. And they're going to hammer it day in and day out until someone understands the gravity of how important it is to have a leader at each position group. And I think that is where you do it in the winter, because you can beat the crap out of these guys because they've got time to recover before the season.
I will add one other thing, too, and this is important that happens at Ohio State. And was that your freshman year or second year that Urban got here?
That was my second, going into my sophomore year, yeah.
And so this happens from time to time, and it happened a little bit, it ebbed and flowed through Tress, and Urban did a pretty good job of making sure that it didn't, but it's tough. The longer you're here, as guys get used to showing up and winning.
Yeah.
And it's like, I just show up, and Dino Fick used to say, it's still like, you can't just roll your helmet out there. They see the Ohio State helmet, everybody's just falling down. It's like bowling. That's not the reality. And so, like, I'm stepping into this position, and you know what? I play corner at Ohio State, and we've had 8 guys drafted in the first round in the last 10 years or whatever the heck it is. Like, I'm a first-round player. No, that's not how it works. Like, you have to earn that. You have to develop it and work at it. And it's really hard because these guys are highly recruited, and it's just, we always talk about next man up. Well, they do a good job of like making sure these guys earn the next man up, as opposed to, well, the guy ahead of me graduated and I'm the next in line, so it's now my time. It's never your time. It's only rented. You have to earn it every day.
And when they go through those, like when they put us through those, winters that Urban put us through when he first got there, every single year you have less and less people who experience that. So every single year you've got less and less people who understand how that culture was created. And so like Bob said, you take it for granted. Oh, we're going to go win. But more than that, you take it for granted that we're just this culture is how it is. It's not going to change, blah, blah, blah. Like, no, you have to recreate that culture every single year. And when Urban comes in and just burns the house down, all of us are there for at least, the next 3. Like my senior year, that's seared into my memory. So I see these young guys coming in, trying to be all cute and stuff like this. That stuff doesn't fly. And the rest of the people in my senior class felt the same way. Like, we've been through this. We understood what it took to build this kind of build what we're doing right now. You're not going to come in and think, oh, this is just cake, blah, blah, blah.
So, Mike, does that take, when we see the highlight videos, even of workouts or mat drills or pictures of guys in the weight room and somebody's, is that something that you have to say to point out? Is it just them following your work ethic?
I know coaches script some of that stuff, but that's something you got to feel in the moment. Like, I went back into one of the mat drills last year, and those guys were working their tail off, but it was a different culture than when I was there. When I was there, it was more adversarial. It was us against the coaches. It was us against each other.
You in there.
Yeah, it was gladiator stuff.
One of you gets to eat hot dogs, the other one gets to eat steak. Go.
And wear a purple jersey or whatever it is. But when I was there, it was, you could still see them working hard. You could still see the guys at the front of the line who would talk to people, like, if, because they'll do mat drills where everybody goes, and if the last group doesn't do a good job, everybody starts over. And they do that on purpose. You want there to be a little bit of friction. But it was much more team focused. It was much more uplifting. And, I think that nowadays that is much better, but you can definitely see how the culture switches over time, because those guys did not do bear crawls in the snow for a week. Those guys didn't get locked out of their locker room because they weren't worthy of wearing the block O. It's a different type of culture, and I would expect, you bring in these high-profile guys who've been told that they are just God's gift to the world for a while, and you have a lot of winning. All of a sudden, you're wondering, okay, why can't we get over this hump? You're going to have to beat some dudes down, and maybe that's just my own personal philosophy, but, like, I think there's a grittiness that's required in football, and it is easy to be complacent when you're winning, especially when you are just that much more talented, that even if you aren't doing that great, you're still going to be winning the Big Ten championship, and you're just going to keep wondering, why am I getting slipped up by these top teams? Because you need a little bit of something else.
And so, we start talking about these stories, and you see it erode. And so came in, Tressa's first full recruiting class. We had 6 a.m.s in the morning. We have to go to study table afterward, go to class, come back and lift. It was atrocious. You were like a zombie going in there. And you did that, for 3 weeks, 3-4 days a week at the end of the winter quarter, and it was terrible. And so by the time, though, Justin's leaving, and then after that, it had dude, the thermostat had been turned down significally. Like, it wasn't.
I've said that's where I learned how to juggle.
Yeah.
in one of those.
At the end, I'm like, I came back after my
hand-eye coordination. It was perfect.
It's like, Tress, what is this? Like, well, it's different now. They're bringing in more like the science stuff, and that's what Urban, they changed a little bit, but it's like, okay, I understand this might be better for you physically, but is it always better for you, like, mentally? And to building like a unit where you look around at everybody else, like, at least I know everybody else around here is tough. Like, if nothing else, they're tough, dude. Like, they went through exactly what I did. I know how bad it felt. They didn't quit. I didn't quit. So that's what builds those bonds of commonality. Like, it's all military philosophy, and this, with your family and everything. Like, that's what strips down, like, all personal characteristics. You're simply judged by how you perform in the adversarial situations, because everybody experienced them, so you don't care what the other person looks like. Like, they came out of that, so I know that they've got to have at least 1 or 2 things in common with me.
I think it's just in any coaching, you see it over as time goes on, and if you're winning early on, you just start to get a little more lax. You feel a little bit better about things. They're just going to show up and play. We're going, everybody buys into that a little bit, which is why it's what Saban has done at Alabama is amazing. Every year, not every year, but more than that, at least every other year, he's in the national championship. So he continues to keep that same standard year in and year out. And that's the thing I think for coaches is really, really hard to do. One, you get turnover of your coaching staff, turnover of players. Maybe you have some great leaders who helped you keep things on track. And, you just start losing the wrong people, and all of a sudden you become a soft team.
And I would say,
need a reset.
Yeah, I would say every coach would agree that the championship is won in winter. Spring ball is where you get to go start working on stuff and find out, okay, what can this guy do on the field? But your leaders are found in the winter. Your biggest strength gains are made in the winter. And that mental chip that you have is decided on the winter. If you can't find a chip in winter, you're not going to all of a sudden find one in summer camp. You're not all of a sudden going to find some in spring ball. Those coaches, I know they sit down with plans, and they know they script that stuff to figure out, okay, what is going to be the chip we put on these guys' shoulders this year? Who are going to be the leaders who take that chip as their own and make it, make sure that nobody forgets why we're working this hard. Nobody forgets why we go through this kind of pain and all that kind of stuff and bringing people together. But if you can't get your team ready in the winter for a national championship, you're going to have a hard time.
That process is well underway for the Buckeyes right now. Basketball season heating up. Covered a lot of ground, a lot of bases here on Lettermen Live, as we do every Monday here at Roosters. Appreciate Nicole Cox for having us. Justin Zwick, Bobby Carpenter, and Michael Bennett, who is about to go on his adventures.
I am.
Yeah, let's hear about this.
Can
you tell us about this?
We lose
Nomad.
First, we lose Schlags as one of our full-time regular guys, and now Michael Bennett is about to go spread his wings again.
Spreading the gospel of Lettermen Row.
Okay, well, let's live with that.
The Apostle Paul. Apostle Michael
There you
over here.
go.
I mean, you got accepted to some graduate studies somewhere. Haven't made your decision. Going to go see the world, see some friends. It's been fun having you around, man.
It's been great to be here. There's a really good chance I'll be back. I'm taking my little trip. Yeah, a little sabbatical. But this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate you guys having me.
All right, well, there's still a couple baskets of mozzarella sticks.
You didn't even go out. You didn't get your pepperoni and whatever pizza that you usually go for.
All this food you see in front of you, once those cameras go
going
off,
down.
it's another story.
I turned him on to the buffalo chicken pizza.
Oh, so is he?
I'm not a big buffalo chicken guy, but reluctantly I had a piece, and they got some ranch in there. It's pretty good.
They got some ranch.
So you can get
I love it, yes.
Get your mozzarella sticks and a pizza on Appetizer Tuesday. Come hang out. Thanks to these guys and Nicole Cox again for having us. I am just Austin Ward. We'll see you again next week after I get back from Pinehurst for Lettermen Live.
Oh, look at that. A little jab.
Brought to you by Roosters.